Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
What is up, everyone? I am live from Atlantic City. Molina Mike here. I know it's been a couple of days since we've done a show. Let's start off with let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me and see me all right. I'm doing it out of the hotel room instead of at the venue. So, let me know. I'm not quite sure hold up, but there's lots to talk about. U.S. Open's down to 8 players, and so hop on here and just cut up a little bit. So, tons of things to talk about, including obviously SVB going for number 6. See a comment in the chat already. Hello. Yeah, let me know how everything's coming through if the video and audio is pretty good. So, says all's good. So we're gonna roll with it. All right. If you guys were watching earlier today, actually let's start off with yesterday because there was tons of storylines going into yesterday. Right now, Mosconi Cup moves are happening. Whether you're on the European side or on the American side, Oscar takes down FSR to start the day, loses Hill to Vitali. Vitali survived Max just a little bit ago in a thrilling matchup. And so, along with that, a couple of Americans made it through. Federer and Sky faced each other this morning. It was a great matchup if you guys were able to watch it on the Zone. I believe from here on out, there'll be a combination between the YouTube and the Zone for all you Americans that are out there watching. I got a question in the chat. Who's all left? We got Vitali facing SVB, David Alcade facing Josh Filler, Feder Gorst, and Jeffrey Rota from the Philippines, and then Ko Pinyi versus Niels Fyan. Let me know in the chat if you guys have any questions for me. It's just me writing solo, which I'm not used to doing a whole lot when I do these shows. So, Zach asks, where's Pinozo at? I try to get Mike to do a show, but he, I think he's doing some bowling thing, man. Of all the weeks, he decides to go during U.S. Open week. So go figure. MV brings up BJ, who was definitely the story from yesterday and not for any good reason. I guess we'll kind of lead in to the show with that one. That was all the buzz online. As you guys know, Jeremy Jones became a bit of a story throughout the event. Takes down a couple of big names, including Tyler matches. And if you watched Jeremy play over the years, you know his style of play, and you know he's a methodical player. We saw it in the Mosconi Cup a couple of years ago where he doesn't mind moving the balls. He's not in any kind of hurry or things like that. And so it gets down to the nitty gritty where it's, judgment day, so to speak. And then, he ends up facing BJ, who you think, okay, BJ is in contention for the Mosconi Cup. Top 5, at least he was in contention. Top 5 player, according to rankings, faces against Jeremy. And if you're a BJ, you kind of have to like that spot, right? Like, despite the fact that Jeremy Jones is a cool story and you know the room's going to be against you, like when it comes to where you think you are in your game versus where you think he is in his game, if you're BJ, you had to have loved that spot. Like, okay, good, I get the captain. To make it through another round and continue to get points to make up ground on the guys in the 4th and the 5th spot. And so you're watching the match, and it wasn't on TV, but we were there in the venue, and there was a big crowd. And I think BJ goes up something like 8-5. It gets a little, hit or miss, and some back and forth, and you can tell that the crowd was just starting to form. Like, I'm on the other side of the room, and I just start seeing it getting 3, 4, 5, 6 people deep, and so all the way around there. And, if you're BJ, like I said, the crowd's against you. And not for nothing, but, BJ doesn't necessarily make himself any fans because of his antics, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But, Jeremy's the captain. He's the good story. He's the guy who just, decided to play last minute. And, anyhow, BJ's up pretty good, controlling the matchup from what I saw. I decide to walk up there right around, I want to say 8-7 in favor of Jeremy, and Jeremy dips out, and I can kind of see some discussion between Marcel and BJ, and the crowd's kind of chirping a little bit. Jeremy Jones takes a break. And then I just start hearing that, he's talking while he's shooting, and this is people saying that BJ was doing this while Jeremy was shooting as he was running out, somewhere around the 6 or the 7 ball, which Look, I love guys to have personality when it comes to pool. Personally, like I just thoroughly enjoy it. And there was a couple of instances in this tournament where you have guys who are known to have certain reputations for whatever reason, right? Whether it's good, bad, or whatever, right? But if you got a reputation for being a jerk at times or for sharking or for whatever, like, look, if the shoe fits, just wear it. You know, it's no big deal, right? If you want to play the heel, then play the heel, and I'm good with it. You know, because pool needs storylines, it needs the villains and the heroes and whatever else, and I get that, and I'm for it. But don't act like a jerk on one end and then play the victim on the other end. And so when I hear these stories as I'm walking up, like I said, around 8-7, maybe it was 8-6, something like that. And I start hearing about BJ chirping while the guy's shooting. That's known to happen. If you've ever been to a tournament when BJ's playing the guy, especially when it gets a little thick, and granted, I've only been around tournaments where usually they're like Mosconi Cup ranking type tournaments, whether it's regional or otherwise, and even from watching online. But like that's a known thing that the guy does, right? Like he's known to be there chirping, kind of like Earl in a sense, but not just while he's walking around. At least Earl will give you the dignity of while you're running out, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Now, he may roll his eyes or whatever, but like Earl will at least keep somewhat quiet in the chair. Where BJ is known to kind of do this number and talk to himself, talk to his opponent. Jeremy didn't take too kindly to it, decided to take another break. Now, on the note of Jeremy Jones' pace of play, we saw it in the Tyler match at the end. I was there filming a little bit. And I've watched Jeremy. I'm a big one pocket fan, and Jeremy's a grinder. Jeremy's a bit old school. Like I said, he doesn't mind moving the balls. And so, and not for nothing, but he's not young anymore, and so if nerves are getting the better of him, we got sweaty hands. Lord knows that I do, and I've never been in that level of competition when I have like nerves and things like that. So like, I'm not going to compare it. But what I'll say is that if you don't like the way that the guy's playing, you got to be able to like just like let it go. And not for nothing, but that going into it, how Jeremy can be, Now, when it comes to breaks or whatever, look, guys playing within the confines of the rules is fair. And with the same hand, the criticism that Jeremy gets in regards to the long breaks or frequent breaks, I should say, and wiping his hands and all these things like changing the gloves. Look, I get it. And if you want to have an opinion about it, that's fair too, right? Because all is fair when you're out here playing on the professional stage. Raymond says in the chat, you make your bed. You're absolutely right. No matter which side you're on, if you're on Jeremy Jones' side or if you're on the BJ side. But then BJ goes on this, and I'm sure you guys saw it if you guys follow Windows Open or if you see on other social media platforms or groups or whatever, where he just goes on there and basically says, you know what, like Jeremy Jones took forever. It was a 3.5 hour match, race to 9, which is brutal, by the way. It really is. And basically has the out that, oh, well, he works for Matchroom Pool. And when I walk up at that 8-6 mark, 8-7 mark, like I mentioned before, I heard as much as BJ's talking to Marcel. I overheard something along the lines of, "Well, he does work for Matchroom, does he not?" And kind of using that like you guys are giving him a break because of the fact that he's employed by the company. Look, man, at the end of the day, go fucking play pool. Like that's it. Go play pool, and the wins and the losses and whether you get villainized or made to be a hero will happen no matter what. But people having an opinion based off of your attitude, or in BJ's case, not even because of his attitude, because at the table and outside of talking to Jeremy while he's shooting, like there wasn't any controversy per se because BJ shook his hand after the match. It was fine. But then BJ decides to go on social media and just basically like go off about everything going on and how, things are always twisted. There's only one side of the story being told. And I'm just the victim here in this story. And it's just like, it's exhausting. It's exhausting if you're a fan. It's exhausting if you're scoreboard watching, because it really, like, look, if the dude took forever, that's fine. It doesn't change that it was a great story. And more, and in either way, like, you lost. Just win with some dignity, lose with some fucking dignity. You know what I mean? Like, don't go out there and piss and moan on Facebook about how this happened or that happened. Chalk it up and let that be the end of it, you know? And so instead, that was all the buzz yesterday. And he made himself a talking point, not because of his play or not because he's ranked fifth in the rankings, but because of his outburst online. And there was members within the crew, players, vendors, fans, everywhere that I went to yesterday. Everyone's talking BJ this and BJ that, and it sucks because BJ was in contention for the Mosconi Cup. I don't think he will be anymore. I don't know that, you know, from hearing that from anyone. I would be willing to bet that if he doesn't make it in on points, there is zero chance that he gets picked when it comes to a wild card. Uh, he doesn't necessarily make any friends, and if you see him online, if you see him around in person, he just goes and bitches and moans and always has something negative to say. And it's a little unfortunate because BJ can be a great story too. You know, the blue collar guy, the guy who's only traveling to a selective amount of events and who's on the cusp of breaking through, and he's got a decent U.S. Open run relative to others. Right, he did better than Tyler, he did better than Billy, he did better than guys who are being considered or who are in better position than he would be, whether behind the scenes or in front. And so to ruin it like that, it's just it's unnecessary. And so look, let your play go and do the talking. If people get annoyed with your slow play, if you're Jeremy Jones, that's fair. If people get annoyed by your social media posts because you're an asshole online, that's fair too. If people get annoyed because you act childish when you lose a set, all that's fair because it's professional pool, right? And so there's a different standard these days. And all those opinions and chirping, guess what? If you're a pool player and if you're playing in the US Open or you travel around, all these things are part of every other professional sport. Every other. You know, you see it in baseball and in basketball and football, and people are on Twitter clowning this guy and trolling that guy, and they're in the stands throwing the finger at that guy, and it's part of it. Don't be so fucking thin-skinned. There's no need for it. You know, take it like a man. You lose like a man, win like a man, whatever. And so it was a little bit it was interesting to watch the social media feed last night when it comes to this. On the other note, Jeremy Jones ends up losing in the following round. He would not have been in contention though for the Mosconi Cup, although it would have been a great story because Jeremy's not a top 100 player, and so he'd be akin to like Wojciech, right? Because Wojciech did real good in the World Championships, but he's not a top 100 WNT pro, so he wouldn't be in Mosconi Cup contention. Which, by the way, Wojciech isn't here as well. So, but it was a great story, and I love these great stories when it comes to this. And this is what you get when you come to the U.S. Open. You're scoreboard watching with the Reyes Cup being thrown in the mix. You really just everything becomes a lot more weighted, and so you have guys like a Filler and a David today. They're facing each other right now. There's a good chance that whoever continues their run here is going to take over Mickey in the number 2 spot and then be the second automatic for Team Europe. So those are great stories along with that, right? Sky, showing form at the end of the year. Those are great stories. Tyler and Billy going out before elimination. Those are stories as well. Oscar getting a win against Fran, but then losing Hill to Vitali, and who knows how Vitali is going to do. Those are all stories as well, but like it doesn't have it should have just been kept to the play on the table, and that's the part that kind of like sucks about it. And like I said, it wasn't just BJ. There's probably about, I don't know, maybe like 3 to 5 other guys that are just they're not the best when they lose. They're not the best when they're behind in a rack. They've been known to have issues with other players. And so, yeah, man. But outside of that, though, outside of the drama and then this and then that, there was some excellent play as well. Let me know who you guys think is going to win the U.S. Open from here. Just to give you guys a bit of a recap, Vitali's playing Shane Van Boening. David Alcade's playing Josh Filler. Fedor Gorst and Jeffrey Roeder are going to play. And then Copigny and Niels Fine, the guys still kicking in Niels, are going to play. We're down to 8 players. The TV table matchups are going to be Federer versus Rhoda up first, Vitali versus Shane up second, and then there'll be another table being played on table 1 as well. SVB Federer, that's the talk now, right? And that's the hope because they're on opposite sides of the brackets. I'll be honest with you, like there's a lot of potential really good matchups. And so I like all you guys because look, I'm a fan like everyone else. You know, I'm enjoying the sweat and the what could happen and the what is happening. You know, Vitali survives Max after being up pretty big and then blowing the lead and showing some form. Josh was down 5-1 to Mark Biesterbosch, which, by the way, congratulations to Mark on one hell of an event. Rhoda, the guy who beat Filler, the guy who's just been stunning everyone, he's still alive facing Federer. Copigny, of course, you know, he's vying for a Reyes Cup spot as well. Um, but, you know, it's exciting right now. Look, I'm just going to start from the top, and then we'll kind of work our way down. And if there's any other subjects you guys want to chop up while we get going here or finish up here, then let me know, and I'll be glad. I can see all the chat comments here as well. So I'm going to start off with the guys who are playing in the end of the night on the TV table on the zone. Vitali and Shane. When I had Oscar on the other day, Vitali was the guy who I picked if I'm going with a bit of an unknown that could make a push, that could make a run. And it's um, not because he's friends with Federer or whatever. I've been keeping an eye on this kid for quite some time now. You don't get to see him play a whole lot, and especially you don't get to see him play against top level competition enough. And that's part of the reason why not only is he not in the top 100, but also he's kind of the wild card here. But if you've seen this guy break 9-ball, this dude, let me tell you, this dude's got one of the top 5 breaks in the world. I mean, with anybody in the world. I'm talking with the Copignys in the borderline soft breaks, with the FSRs, with the breaks, with the Kachi, all of these guys, right? Vitali is very much in line with those guys in a top 5. Don't get it twisted. In a top 5, he can compete. And then you think about him after the break, okay? Now, I don't think he's necessarily the best like tactical player per se. His kicking skills are pretty good, but when it comes to running out once you get in line, the kid's as solid as anyone. He's a thoroughbred, right? You're training with these top level guys, and you can tell that he can withstand pushes. You saw that in the Max match. If you guys were watching, whether it was on TikTok or maybe their YouTube channel, whatever. But he can handle the storms, you know? And so to see him come through against Max, look, Max is my guy. Everyone knows if you watch the show, I'm a really big fan of Max Lechner. I talked to Max a little bit. He said his expectations were kind of low going into this event relative to him kind of overhauling his stroke and things like that. Still a solid performance by Max. Probably won't be in Mosconi Cup contention unless he does something really great in Hanoi. But Vitali, I mean, man, let me tell you guys something. And I know the chat's filled with SVB fans, and rightfully so. And Shane did great against Jason. There was a little bit of drama and controversy in there. And I'm rooting for Shane. Shane's a good friend, but Shane doesn't have to beat Vitali. He does not have to beat him. Vitali is more than capable of taking down this match against SVB. Now, the twist is you're playing on the TV table. Vitali is not known to have like the highest gear when it comes to moving his ass around the table. He can be a little slow at times. Now, he just did pretty good against Max on a shot clock table. I believe it was a shot clock table. But that matchup in that crowd, when you talk about BJ handling adversity and the crowd rooting against you, make no mistake about it. Vitali's great, and he's a great kid, and he's a great story. But the whole room is going to be rooting for SVB to continue his run. And then all eyes are going to be on tomorrow because we all want to see Shane go for number 6. Now, it's not going to be easy. Like I said, this Vitali matchup is no walk in the park. By the way, if you guys are wanting to check on when the matches start, it's in a little bit over 30 minutes from now. All the matches will be back on the YouTube feed. So hopefully you guys are hearing and seeing me all right. It's a little bit different than what I'm used to doing, not having anyone to kind of vibe off of, but I wanted to do a show yesterday, actually the last 2 days. Collins is just making excuses. Mike's on vacation. I ain't heard from Joey, so I don't have anyone to hop on with, and so this is a little bit outside of my comfort zone. So David Alcade and Josh Filler are on the other matchup in the 6 o'clock round as well. Look, I know there's a lot of talk about Josh and the foul on the sixth ball, and I got to hang out with Josh a little bit over the past couple of days, and we go have dinner with it was Moritz and Pancake and Ralph and Thorsten and Oscar, and it was a real good group of guys. Frank, who's awesome as well, Frank Candela from Italy. Shout out to Frank Pius. And so I'm sitting next to Josh, and he's like, "So I guess I'm a cheater, huh?" And I said, "Well, like, what do you mean, man?" And I didn't see it because I'm in like my own little bubble when it comes to stuff going on there. Now I watched that rack in particular against Rota because I was there by the arena and I watched him play that safe on that ball. And then I believe that Rhoda kicked after that. And so what I'll say is obviously Josh seen all these things on there. Now, look, whether he felt it or he didn't feel it, and if you have an opinion about him being a cheater or not a cheater, like I mentioned before, when it comes to BJ or Jeremy's pace of play, all's fair when it comes to having opinions and things being caught on camera. Um, I still, in my heart of hearts, I like Josh a lot personally. Now you can't ignore the fact, and I said this to him as much. I said, when that the first time was a little, close. The second time, though, you definitely see the ball move, whether he felt it or not. That's only for him to say. It's hard for me to believe that he didn't feel it. Either way, though, he goes on to lose the match, and not for nothing, but Rhoda played some great pool and came clutch when Josh was at his heels. And so, hey, listen, you chalk it up. The opinions, one way or the other, are great. Josh is used to being the heel. Personally, I don't think he's a shithead. I don't think he's. I wouldn't necessarily classify him as a cheater per se. It definitely was in poor form if he felt the ball and that was a bit of a move. If that was the case, again, I can't say because I didn't ask him personally. I didn't care because he lost the match. Like if he goes on to win, it's a whole different story. But you lose the match, you got outplayed, and really the thing to focus on for me was the fact that Rhoda was just strong on that TV table against Josh Filler. It was a great match to watch. It had a lot of drama in there. The foul outside of it, but you know what? Like this is part of it when you got one referee overseeing two tables. Because if you guys look on their TikTok channel and on their YouTube feed, it's one referee racking the balls between the two, right? So like, and personally, I'm not a fan of all ball fouls. Like that's just I don't think like if you're playing cue ball fouls only or whatever, like, hey, listen, I moved the ball, you can put it back, whatever you want to do. But given the rules, obviously it was a foul, and it really wasn't a big spot within that matchup. It doesn't change the fact that listen, Josh is a phenom. He's an absolute talent. He's great to watch. He's a lot of fun to be around, and the guy is class on and off the table. That's just my opinion about it. Having spent time with him, I'm a big fan of Josh, and I want to see him go for that second spot in the Mosconi Cup because it's not about the money. It's not about anything else when it comes to Josh. It's about he's the ultimate competitor. He thinks that he's the best player on the planet. And I want to see that matchup. I love David, and David's a whole other twist in this whole equation because David can secure a number whatever is a number 2 spot as well if he goes deep in this tournament. And it's great because David's going up against these young Europeans and still doing awesome and coming clutch in this last match, winning Hill. And so all of these things are great to watch out for. Personally, when I'm looking at the top part of the bracket, by the way, you guys can check out WNT live scores for the matchups and for the live scoring as well if you guys cannot sweat it online. Up top, obviously, we all want to see Josh and Shane play. I'm not so sure we're going to get it. I love going chalk to some extent, but I just think it's going to be incredibly difficult for that matchup to happen. Look, Josh's break hasn't been like as pinpoint. Now, he's the type of player where you got to put him away. And Josh has dodged a couple of bullets in this. So can he parlay that into a pretty big run? I think he can. But David's a veteran. David's tough. David's not going to lay down. David's not going to get caught up in the, Joshua Filler. He's not going to get caught up in any of that. They got a lot of respect for each other. And David, I think in Josh's case, Josh is a lot more secure in the fact that, hey, if I lose, I'm still pretty much a lock on the Mosconi Cup. In my opinion, whether he makes it in on points or not, there's 0% chance, just like there's 0% chance that BJ gets in, there's 0% chance that that Filler does not get in on Team Europe. The guy's box office, he's made for that stage. He's the two-time MVP, I believe, and so I can't wait to see how that ends up unfolding. Down below, the pride of the USA, Federer against the last Filipino standing, Jeffrey Rota. Look, Rota beat Filler earlier in this tournament. You obviously know about his pedigree, given the fact that he's a Marboy player. The kid's brutal. I mean, just absolutely tough. He is showing some great class in this tournament. He's destroying one player after another. Where I think on paper, because you don't know the name, that the kid's a bit of an underdog. And so, but look, Federer's sitting on all cylinders right now, and his momentum is just continuing to grow. It's scary because we all know what his ceiling is, and if you don't take the kid out when you have the opportunity to take him out, then he just gets stronger and stronger and stronger as the event goes on, and you're seeing it here. He destroyed Sky earlier, and Sky made it a little bit of a game, late in the match. Brutal scratch there at the end to lose, but Federer is looking pretty pinpoint. And the thing is that this is the time in the tournament where the kid just shuts everyone down. He'll shut Josh down. He can shut Shane down. He can shut Copigny down if that comes there. He can certainly shut down Niels. But the Rota matchup may be a bit of a trap because the kid's basically free rolling. And listen, you're not going to be scared of anyone once you've already played Josh on a TV table at the U.S. Open. But again, you can have everybody rooting against you because Federer playing at the U.S. Open, and I saw it last year when he's playing Little Co at the U.S. Open. Like Federer is like the hometown kid, you know what I mean? Like he's the adopted American, and so it's going to be great to see if he can continue that dominating run. If Rota can be the upset, I don't think that Rota can take another step. I wouldn't be surprised, but it's going to be tough action because Federer is Federer. But if I'm betting my money, I'm betting on Federer. So Copigny against Niels. Again, this is the bottom half of the bracket, you guys. Look, if you're hoping that Federer loses, if you are hoping that Federer goes down, Copigny is probably your biggest hope because he's obviously well seasoned. He's a multiple-time world champion. I think he's a heavy favorite against Niels in this upcoming match. But Niels is like defying logic here. He's the elder statesman who just keeps on figuring out a way. He's in the top 8 of the U.S. Open. Could he go on a run and make himself part of Mosconi Cup contention? He still wants it. He's still hungry for it. He's not ready to take on any kind of captain's role or to be a coach or things like that because he still feels like he's got, he's still a top European player. He's in the final 8 of the U.S. Open. You got a tough matchup though. Copigny is not going to be a walkover, and so that's going to be another one people are going to be watching out for. Again, matches are going to start here, guys, in about 25 minutes. So go check out DAZN if you're in the U.S. I know it'll be maybe on TikTok, maybe on Matchroom Live, but let me know in the chat who you guys think is going to make the final. We're down to 8 players. I'll try to post the bracket link in there as well. And so Vitali facing Shane, David Alcade versus Filler, Federer versus Rota, Copigny versus Niels Fine. We're down to 8 players. We'll be down to 4 after today. And then tomorrow, semifinal, and then final. If I'm and I'm seeing a comment in the chat. So Jason asks, and let me see if I can like this. Jason asks, Mike, can you confirm if the drama between SVB and Shaw was ref related? Okay, so I'm sitting, thanks to my buddy Matt, I was sitting right behind the 2 players, like in the there, right in between Shane and Federer, excuse me, and Jason Shaw. And so there was a couple of rocks earlier where Jason misses a ball, and it wasn't a ball that you expected. I mean, it wasn't a gimme shot, but it wasn't a ball that you expected to clap in the crowd. That was kind of in poor taste. Not kind of. It was in poor taste, right? The guy misses the ball, and even if you're a Shane fan, like competitive spirit of it all. And you don't want to, like, if the guy's going to lose, go let him lose. You know what I mean? But, like, don't throw salt on it when the guy dogs a ball that he's supposed to make. And so it was kind of like you heard it if you were there. I know I heard it whenever I was there. Then fast forward another rack or so, maybe a couple racks. Jason's on a 6 ball. It's touchy position. Jason decides to use a little power, but the table didn't take it, and so he jaws it and it spits out. Same thing, right? Jason's done with the shot. You hear, and it's just like fuck. You know what I mean? Like, okay. And look, I like both guys. I'm a big fan of Jason. I'm a big fan of Shane as well. And so Jason looks over to me, and without getting into like too much detail, let's just say that it was someone that they both knew who was clapping, or at least Jason felt that way. And Jason looks at me and says, hey, it's so and so, and I looked over and I see who, and I'm just like, okay, I'm staying out of that one. But Jason didn't take too kindly to it. I think he felt like it was in poor taste. Told he went and had a discussion with the referee about it in the break thereafter. He also went and had a discussion with Shane about it. I think a couple racks there as well. And so, look, it's part of sports, right? If it's someone or friends, we all kind of know these like unwritten rules. You know what I mean? Like, fans are going to be fans, and it's all fair. And some of it can be a little cringy at times. Some of it can be a little bit like, we shouldn't do that, because we're used to, when you're in the pool room, like, you give these guys respect, or when you're in the tournament, like, you're okay, chill. You know what I mean? Like, they're battling here. And pool, out like different than other sports, doesn't have that, like, drunken fans, unless you're at the Mosconi Cup, who are just obnoxious. And I think we need more of it, by the way. I do. Even though it's in poor taste and all these things, I think we need more of it. But that's just me, like, loving great content and loving it to be more like other sports, Jason didn't take too kindly to it. Like I said, he had a word with the referee, had a word with Shane about it. I'll leave it at that. If the guys want to talk about it, they'll be happy to talk about it. Me being friends with them, I'm not going to, put them on the spot when it comes to a question like that. I'm sure they're handling it in-house, and I know they were, because Shane wasn't too thrilled about it either, as was Jason. It didn't take away from the fact that, look, Shane had some really good outs when he played Jay. I'm sitting right there. I'm sweating a lot of it. And so there was some like grinding outs that Shane had to come with in order to make it past Jason Shaw, and he handled his business. Now Jason gave him a couple racks that he shouldn't have given him, but that's just part of it. And so look, Jason's already a captain of Team Europe. Jason's an amazing player. He's showing great form right now this year as well, along with the other American captain in Sky Woodward. But look, the fan in me, the friend in me, the one who loves stories in me wants to see Shane go for number 6. And so that's the part where, like, I'm like, all right, let's go, Shane, move on. And Shane's going to move on. Like I said earlier, he faces Vitali in the next round. Should be a really good matchup. Do not sleep on that kid, man. I'm telling you guys, do not sleep on. And he may lose 10-0. Fuck, he may lose 10-1. You know what I mean? And it's okay, because you're facing SVB at the U.S. Open on the TV table in the final 8. And so I wouldn't be surprised. But if he makes it a game, or if he gets comfortable and doesn't let the moment get the better of him, if you just think about how he can break the balls and how he can run out, I'm telling you, he can get there. And it's going to make for a great matchup. The first matchup on deck is going to be Rota versus Federer. And then I think the bottom half on the TV table, on the other table, Copigny versus Niels Fine. Those are going to be the first 2 matchups that you guys are going to be able to see in about 15 minutes time. I'm going to try to go and do a show later on tonight if I can get someone to roll with me. And if I can't, maybe I'll hop in here and I'll do another show late in the evening, just like I'm doing it right now. And so any other questions you guys have for me before I get out of here, put them in the chat. Josh says you can't play the villain. He says you play the villain but can't handle it. Look, I think that there's there's a time and a place when it comes to like playing the heel and being that like Mosconi Cup Shaw. You know what I mean? But like we're not in the Mosconi Cup right now. And when players are in that moment, they very much know that all's fair in love in Europe versus America. You know what I mean? Like they get it. They play that. They're encouraged to do that, you know? And so all of these things that happen when it comes to the fans, that's just part of it. Now, look, and I know there's like undertones to this, right? Like there's undertones to Shaw versus Shane. And believe me, I love watching it from a Mosconi Cup standpoint. And so, but I'll say this though, that it's Jason. I'm not going to be upset at Jason for not being thrilled with it, and I'll put it like that. You know what I mean? And so um, there's just a certain level that I think players understand that at the end of the day, like they're in a fraternity with one another, and so they kind of don't want to, you know what I mean, like leave it to the fans. But when it's someone like in our circles or whatever, hey, come on, man, And so I think that's where Jason kind of has somewhat of a leg to stand on. But either way, Shane moved on. Shane played great. And so big shout out to all of our sponsors who helped make this trip possible. I couldn't do it without them. You see the podcast sponsors on the show, but I want to give a big shout out to Mucci Q's, Michelle Griffin Realtor, Dragon Billiards, the League Room, Pat's Billiards, who if you're looking for a custom cue, hit up Pat. Dragon Billiards, dude, I'm going to do some videos with him that he sent me. He's a great trainer. The League Room, Chris, I got to film some stuff with him. And then, of course, Mucci. Look, when I say, like, thank you to them, it's not because I want to, have their logo up and they're great, but they really are supporting my trip being out here. It's not easy being away for 2 weeks from my girls. It's not easy being away and all the costs from travel and otherwise. And it's some long days and a bit of a grind, but for sure, I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for them. So if you see those logos up on Windows Open, go check out their pages, show them some love because they're showing me some love. Saw a question about whether I'll be at the Reyes Cup. So far, the plan is Hanoi and then the Reyes Cup. That's what I'm looking to do. Matchroom already gave me the green light. They'll give me access out there. So if I get out there, then it's gonna be full steam ahead. And I really, really, really want to go to Hanoi, and I really want to check out the first Reyes Cup because, like, I'm like you guys, man. I'm a big fan, like through and through. In my bones, I love watching great pool. I love watching the stories, and there's so many more out there with all these guys. Like, I could talk about the last 32 and like different aspects of these dudes like traveling on their dimes and grinding and figuring out a way to claw and scratch. And they're all just trying to live out their dreams, And so I got a lot of respect for them. Some guys can be more of a pain in the ass than others for sure. And they can kind of suck the life out of it. But the crowds that were there today, the fight that the players are showing, the heart that the players are showing is awesome. Is amazing, and I got the utmost respect for them because it's not easy. Like they're traveling around the world. Money is not necessarily the best in pool right now. Although shout out to Matchroom for announcing, an increase in the prize fund for next year for the U.S. Open. But it's a grind, man. It's a grind for sure. And so anyhow, I'm gonna go sweat the action here in a bit. As soon as we get off of here. Hopefully you guys get to check it out as well. I will be posting updates on the page, so make sure and go check it out. Like I said before, I'll try to do a show later on this evening, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed what we've done so far over the last, whatever it's been, 10, 11 days. It's been a long trip, and I'm looking forward to being home in a few days with my daughters. But we got some great pool coming up. The U.S. Open is going to have another winner coming up.